Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you've had a wonderful meal. It is now time for the speeches, so it's my great honour to pass over to the father bride, Robert.
You like doing that, don't you?
Are we on? Is that on? No. I've turned it off.
Negative feedback.
I've moved away. Are we on? Are we on? Yeah, we're on now. We've got to use the microphone so we don't spray all over you with COVID and everything. It's the truth. Right. Oh, wrong speech. Here we go.
There we go.
I'm gonna move that over.
Later.
Being heckled. And breathe, exactly. Thank you. Welcome, everybody. And I must just say, it's great to see you all, because we nearly didn't see you all. It was nearly not here, and it nearly didn't happen, and da-da-da-da-da. So, thanks for all coming, and it is good to see you all. Yeah. And being here to celebrate today, wedding of Jenny and Matt. So, isn't it great? Especially after so long of not being allowed to meet together and do anything. So, yeah, I'm very pleased, enjoying myself. As we all know, we've had difficult times over the last 18 months. Significant changes have happened, and none of us wanted them, and they were all imposed upon us. And the anxiety, really, of what we've gone through. So here we all are, and hopefully this will be the start of the way out of the last series of anxiety events and goodness knows what else. Anyway, don't they all look wonderful? What a team. The dream team. Here's a question for everybody, and I know a lot of you will know the answer. Where did Jenny and Matt first meet? If you've been checking the website, you should know the answer, because I think it's been on there as well. So.
Where I will the flowery shirt.
Yeah. I don't remember that bit, actually. So yeah, it was at Helen and Barry's joint 50th birthday celebration. Yeah. Sorry. Helen and Barry. And so I'll say a lot of us were there, including myself. And those of you who were there and either knew Jenny or Matt at the time couldn't fail to notice on that day, on that evening, something special has actually occurred. Even I noticed that something was going on that evening, so that's how fairly obvious it was. I don't remember too much detail about the evening. Sorry, Baz. Perhaps that was because it was... Yeah, that might have been it. But I can tell you that if you put me back in that room now, I can tell you where these two stood for most of that evening. Because it was very obvious that they liked each other. And I say it was obvious to the entire room that they liked each other. Yeah, so we couldn't fail to notice that. Yeah, not many parents are actually privileged to see one of their daughters meet the love of their life. So I'm lucky. And from then on, of course, it wasn't Jenny or Matt, it was Jenny and Matt. It was continuously, well, Matt and Jenny, depending which side you're reviewing. But they were then an item, and they were an item and have been since. And I've watched them from that day develop, but hardly unflinchingly, their love has shown all the time. So it was almost, it was set in stone from that day. It was almost an accepted thing that it was going to be Jenny and Matt forever. Yeah. And they've been together and helped each other. I've seen them all helping each other since then. At school, let's not forget how long ago this was. 2013, that evening was. So we're talking 8 years. So yeah, at school.
Our age away now.
If they're any good at maths, they're we on it. University, where they seem to they went to separate universities, Warwick and Coventry, and those of you who are better educated than me will know that Warwick is actually in Coventry. Which kind of surprised me until it didn't surprise me at all. And then, of course, supporting each other at work and running a home together, owning a dog, Puppy, who sadly can't be with us today. And marriage now, which we've all been privileged to witness. And I must admit that, yeah, that was great in the church today. And well done, Stephen, for getting it on at the pub. That was the biggest shock of the day, mate, coming out and seeing the church in the pub car park. Excellent, excellent. Thank you for that. So I'm sure the constancy of their love for each other, which has already extended for the last 8 years, will remain solid amidst all that life will throw at them, and there's undoubtedly a lot that will be thrown at all lives. But their love will nurture and support a long and happy life together, I'm sure of that. So, ladies and gents, delighted to hand over to Jenny and Matt, Mr. and Mrs. King.
Going to stand up? Hello. Okay. So, we're giving a joint speech, which I'm sure you're very... Oh, maybe if we move that slightly. Yeah, after my performance in the church, we're probably all a bit worried about how I'm going to get through this. But we'll give it a go. So, first of all, we'd like to welcome you all and want to thank you all for coming to our special day. And we're so thrilled to have had so many of our friends and family here, especially after the last year. And thank you all so much for your generous gifts and contributions. I can honestly say today wouldn't be the same without you all. So the first toast that we've got, and there's many, so make sure your glasses are nice and full, is to all of you. Okay. There you go.
So I'd like to start off by thanking both sets of our parents, not only for both of their help and support in organising the event in such a crazily difficult period of time, made more difficult by us, but also for their help in funding, which has been undeniably helpful. I'd also like to thank Rob and Julie, Jenny's parents, for raising such a beautiful and well-natured daughter. She's so loving and caring.
Where's Stephen? Me. In case you're confused.
And for giving me their blessing when I asked them if I could spend the rest of my life with her. And I promise I will always be there when Jenny needs me, and always make her my top priority. Over to Jenny.
Mum and Dad, where do I even begin? You have supported me at every stage of my life. I can definitely say that I wouldn't be where I am today without you. Mum, you and I, that started already. You and I have the same soul. You're the person I come to about everything. You're my best friend. Dad, you're the calm in the storm. When everyone else is either crying or panicking, you always know exactly what to do. A good example of this is when on Wednesday, the marquee company was setting up and they managed to burst a water pipe. I was just in complete shock. Meanwhile, Dad's grabbing stuff from the shed, and within the hour, he'd managed to source a replacement part, dug a hole to find the leak, and fit the part to fix the pipe. Meanwhile, Mum is in charge of emotional support back at base camp. I see both of these qualities in Matthew, which is one of the reasons why I fell in love with him. I love how enthusiastically you both have embraced Matt into our family and how protective you are of him. I'm often told by my mum not to be so mean to Matt or to listen to Matt because he's often right. When I was younger, it was a bit of a common joke that my future husband needed to be very patient and understanding. And I don't think anyone could believe my luck when I found Matthew. Mum and Dad, since the day you met Matt, you have supported him as much as you did me. You still provide us with daily support and encouragement that I know neither of us could live without. So our next toast is to Julie and Rob.
Julie, thank you.
Still you.
Oh, sorry, so it's still me, sorry. Christine and Ian, thank you very much for welcoming me into your family and raising Matt to be such an amazing, well-rounded person. He is kind, considerate, funny, and honest. When I first knew Matt and met you all, I was shy and terrified to even say 3 words to you. So thank you for being so patient with me and supporting me to grow into a more confident person.
Further to that, Mum and Dad, I would like to thank you both for always being there for me with unconditional love and support every time. You've always pushed me to be the best I can, try my hardest, and always been there to pick up the pieces when I've fallen apart. I appreciate everything you've done for me. You've both taught me so much and made me the person that I am today, and I couldn't have asked for more care and attention to detail. So I love you both. And a toast to Christine and Ian.
Yeah, Christine and Ian. Don't. It's still you.
Third round. Is it our third round? It might be our fourth round.
Oh, yeah.
Goes to 4 very important gentlemen who have been there throughout my life for as long as I can remember. Andrew, Ross, Stephen and Richard. This is likely the only time you'll ever hear this, so listen up. Andrew, throughout my young life, you were always there to support me. Sometimes you wound me up so much I felt the need to hit you with a big stick. But you never felt the need to hit back. You just egged me on. Throughout my adult life, anytime I've needed your advice, you've always been there to give it, and it's always been sound. That includes getting Jenny's number, so thank you. Ross, you've also always been there for me growing up, even from a young age. You'd always be there to help or join in with my stupid antics, such as making YouTube videos, or trying to build a tree house in the pear tree. I remember times when you'd say, let's go and wrestle out on the trampoline, or go and shoot some cans in the woods. You've always managed to get me out in the world somehow and away from the TV screen. I remember times when you'd argue back with mum and dad just in my favour for the sake of it. Or when you just ask for a Chinese because I thought I might get rejected. So you've always been there to keep me young and sane, so thank you to you. Stephen and Richard, always there to provide some fun when we were young. Still there to provide some fun when we're now young. I don't think I could ask for a pair of better cousins, to be quite honest. Seeing the both of you has always made me want to come out of my shell a bit more, do a bit more, say a bit more. I still have fond memories of being the cameraman behind the hit nature documentary Baldy, featuring Uncle Barry.
Stand up, Uncle Barry.
You've got a funny colour.
I used to love playing football and cricket with you guys in Nana's garden, but I never quite worked up the same enthusiasm back with my home team. And Dad would always say to me, why can't you play like that at home? I think the truth is no one ever really made it as fun as you guys did. So thank you. A toast to Andrew, Ross, Stephen and Richard. Cheers. Oh. Finally, just a moment to thank the rest of the family. Since you've all met Jenny, you've welcomed her with open arms, and I couldn't have asked for a better reception for her. So thank you to all of you for being so welcoming and accommodating to Jenny.
Okay. So I'd now like to thank my gorgeous bridesmaids. Rebecca, Becky, Joe and Ellie. You all look beautiful today. Thank you for agreeing to be my bridesmaids and the amazing hard work you put in, especially with the hen party, which ended up being a lot. Rebecca, I couldn't imagine anyone else better suited to stand with me on my wedding day. I've often reflected on our fun-filled childhood and thanked my lucky stars I had a sister. From having someone to play Polly Pockets with, or swim on holiday with, or watch Disney movies all day, or shopping trips and spa days together. Planning this wedding hasn't been easy, but you have kept an amazing excitement and enthusiasm through it all. So thank you. Okay, just compose myself. Becky, Joe and Ellie. I think of sixth form as one of the happiest times of my life, and I owe it all to you guys. I miss spending free periods eating fast food, playing cards and gossiping rather than doing any work. When I'm with you, it feels like hardly any time has passed, and our friendships are still as strong as back at school when we met up every day. Sorry. I wanted you all to be my bridesmaids, as I hope you'll be in my life just as long as Matt and my family. And we'll all still meet up and feel like 16-year-olds when we're 80. To all my bridesmaids, I couldn't imagine my life without you. I love you. So the next toast to Rebecca, Becky, Ellie and Joe. Okay.
We're now going to give out some presents. So when I start clapping, if you could clap with me. Can we put our hands together for the bridesmaids, Rebecca, Becky, Joe and Ellie, who I'm sure you'll all agree look absolutely stunning. Thank you. I'd like to thank them all for their support they've given Jenny, getting her ready this morning and helping with her notorious nerves. They also organised a wonderful hen party for her, so thank you for that. For future reference, though, Jenny doesn't like not knowing anything about a party. So, yeah.
Where are we on the sheet, Matt? Okay, yeah, so next the groomsmen, Andrew, Ross, Stephen and Richard, for helping set up the venue and make sure everything went as planned. You've all been amazing. You also organised an amazing stag do for Matthew. Thank you very much for not tying him to a tree in his underwear and leaving him somewhere. He was very nervous about that, especially as Ross made a point of going to get some duct tape as you left. So yeah, round of applause to the groomsmen. And of course, our parents. You were both so helpful and supportive. You managed to keep your heads when the pressure was on and helped us sort all the fine details, apart from you, Mum. Cutting, sticking, threading together all sorts of small details and things that would have taken us weeks and months to do without you. So thank you so much. Okay, so this is the gushy bit now. I'll let Matt finish.
Is that me?
No, I think it's me now. Sorry. Okay. So, Matthew. Are you on the right sheet? Yeah. Okay, Matthew. Once upon a time on a boat, far, far away, poor Richard had the unfortunate task of being paired with me during his watch of an overnight sail across the English Channel. Richard was steering and trying to make small talk while I was wearing about 500 layers and was curled in a ball, nibbling on a digestive and praying I would be able to keep it down. Not helping at all with the sailing. Richard was asking me what school I went to and whether I knew anyone from Longstands in St Neots. I didn't, so I said no. And Richard asked if I knew anyone called Matt King, because he's in my year. Again, I said no. Little did I know, that was the name of my future husband. Now we've been together for 8 years, and I can honestly say I've never been happier. Over the past 8 years, we've both grown and evolved into stronger, more confident and braver versions of the 17-year-olds we were when we met. When I'm with you, I feel safe and excited to try new things together. I've also developed a love of dogs thanks to you and Henry, something many people have tried and failed to achieve. When I started university, I struggled to adjust to such a new, independent way of life. I felt terribly homesick and alone at times. And you were the one person to support and encourage me when I felt lost or lonely. 1 second. I loved your commitment to me and our relationship even in the very beginning. You came to every party, every family gathering, and visited me every other weekend at university. I was over the moon when you started at Coventry, because even back then, I knew I wanted to spend the rest of my life with you. It sounds cheesy, but our souls are moulded together perfectly. We're both introverted and a bit on the lazy side. We've binge-watched many a TV show, eaten many takeaways, and been the wallflowers at many parties together. We can bait ourselves around each other and drive each other forward, both in our personal and professional lives. Since university, we've been busy building an amazing life together. We have our lovely house in Flitwick and our gorgeous baby Labrador, Poppy. Raising and training Poppy has been our most challenging and enjoyable adventure yet. And I can't wait for our little family to grow and to take on future challenges with you. Matt.
I love you more and more every day. Say tomat, everyone.
This is getting emotional.
Yeah. I'm going to rely
One final thanks. I'm sure you'll be able to guess who it's for. Bear with me and you can all have a drink. I'm fairly sure I might cry.
You haven't shedded a tear this whole time.
Don't laugh if I do. It's getting emotional. Okay, Jennifer. When I saw you today, I was knocked a bit speechless. I just thought, wow, there wasn't any words to describe how beautiful you look. When I saw you coming down the aisle, my knees started knocking. But when you finally got there with me, I just relaxed. Just knowing I'm sharing the rest of my life with you makes me feel like I've already succeeded. We've been planning this wedding for what feels like an eternity now. I say we. Perfect bit of being a man is that weddings just plan themselves. I'm joking. Jenny actually said to me a few weeks ago that I have done probably more than what most grooms do. Although I've been told it's not my day, it's Jenny's day the whole time. So a round of applause to me. Thank you. I was joking. Jennifer, I remember when we first met at my aunt and uncle's 50th. You were actually the one who approached me, despite me staring at you like a creep all night. Little did I know until a few years ago, it was actually Julie who told you to go and speak to that quiet boy at the end of the table. Good call, Julie. Throughout that night, I was prodded by a drunken Andy, one of the best men, my brother, to go and ask for her phone number. It wasn't until Jenny actually started leaving that I thought I should do that. I always thought to myself, I should live with you for a year before I proposed, but I knew long before that you were the one. And speaking of proposals, that was one of the most nerve-wracking moments of my life. Not because I didn't know if you'd say yes, I knew she would, but because I wanted it to be perfect. And was it perfect? No. Did I get down on one knee and make a big speech? No. But it was the perfect representation of you and me, with me sort of tripping over and falling flat on my face, and you reassuring me that it went without a hitch. Since I've met you, I've always strived to better myself, and you've always been there by my side to support and correct me when I'm wrong. You've made me a better person, you've brought me out of my shell, and for every step I've taken, you've been there to take it with me, no matter how big, small, or scary. Jennifer, you're the boat that keeps me afloat. I love you with all my heart. Thank you for choosing me. Julie. Now, can I ask you all to stand me, raise a glass to the love of my life, to my new wife, to Jennifer. Jenny. Cheers. Now, I believe we've got 20 minutes worth of a torrent of abuse coming, so I'll pass over to the best man.
Maybe move that way a little bit. Smart, loyal, successful, honest, most of all, a great man. But that's enough about me. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, good evening.
It gives us great pleasure to thank the warm-up acts Rob and Matt an even greater pleasure to introduce the main event of the day, the best men.
For those of you that don't know us, firstly, where have you been Matt's whole life? But by way of introduction,
He's Andrew, Matt's big brother.
and he's Ross, Matt's not so little brother.
You're still capable.
Yes, you heard it right. Collectively, with Matt, we are the three kings. Although this isn't that kind of nativity, and we're more we three kings of not so far. That said, there are definitely some similarities between us. First up, there's the gold. That's me. Enough said, I think. Then there's Ross, frankincense. A bit quirky and an acquired taste. Finally, we're left with Matt. He's the myrrh, because, let's be honest, nobody really knows what that's all about, do they?
And the likeness to famous trios don't stop there. There's the good, him, the bad, me, and the, well, I'll make your own conclusions on that one. And they keep on coming. The three little pigs, the three bears, Ron, Harry, and Hermione. The common link, though, much like our childhood, is sadly Matt gets teamed up on and left behind.
And that brings us nicely to the groom himself. Now, before I go any further, if there's anyone here who's feeling nervous, apprehensive, even queasy maybe, at what lies ahead, your name is probably Matt. Or should I say, Miffy, as Mum likes to call you. Now, Miffy here had great delight at informing me on my wedding day that when a man asks his brother to be his best man, it says a lot, blah, blah, blah. Mostly, he has no friends. Fair point. Very funny, well presented. But, Miffy, let me ask in return, what exactly is the groom compensating for when he asks two brothers to be his best men? Now, being the older brother, I've known Matt longer than Matt's known Matt. And that means I know a lot about Matt. But there's one thing all of us in this room know about him. And whilst I use some very kind and elaborate words to describe myself at the start of this speech, there's only two words that best describe our groom. And they are, of course, just Matt. Because he truly is one of a kind. Joining a conversation 5 minutes late, just Matt. Still eating a starter when everyone else has finished their dessert, just Matt. Growing your hair and beard to look like a Viking, just Matt. Driving around with cans of Pepsi in your boot to fuel your fizzy drink addiction, just Matt. Forgetting your towel, then your soap, then your pants when showering on a campsite and doing 6 journeys instead of 1. That is literally just Matt. And how about this? Not introducing any of your mates to each other on your own stag do. Yes, that actually happened. Just Matt. Matt is just Matt. He always has been, and he always will be. However, I do know him well enough to assure all of Jenny's friends and family he isn't actually stupid, despite common belief. So don't fear what Jenny's married into. He's just a bit... In fact, the couple's cars provide the best comparison. He's a red Kia Venga bus, trundling in the middle lane. Yes, he actually chose to buy one of those. It's obviously very adequate, but it is what it is. Jenny is more in the fast lane in a well-tuned black Audi. Other German car brands are available. Whilst I've mentioned Jenny, I just want to say how gorgeous you look, as ever. A round of applause, please, everybody. Everyone here will know that you are a wonderful and caring person, and you deserve a good husband. Thank God for Matt, he married you before he found one. Also, whilst I'm doing the rounds, the bridesmaids, Becky, Rebecca, Jo and Ellie. You also all look beautiful and you put us groomsmen to shame, quite frankly. So another round of applause for them, please. And finally, us groomsmen. So just to introduce again, Stephen and Richard, our two fabulous ushers and cousins. Personally, considering the hands that the four of us were dealt in life, I don't think we actually look too bad. So any single ladies out there, other than me, we're single and ready to mingle. So where was I? Oh, yes. Why is Matt just Matt? Was he like it as a child? Did he possess other talents? What changed that meant he could convince the police to let him enter a lifetime of organised crime, drugs and bent coppers? But first up, yes, Matt was 100% just Matt as a child. In fact, maybe the reason he is this way stems from the very early days. He was obsessed with the Teletubbies. Those weird, creepy, Tommy TV watching things that worshipped a sort of child sun. And no surprises, who was his favourite? Dipsy. Then there are the other childhood games we used to play in the garden. So whilst Ross and I would focus our attentions on harnessing the money bush and ensuring that we had enough garden currency to afford weapons, fast cars, and control of the garden's transport routes and resources, Matt could be found on the climbing frame, upside down, literally pretending he was a monkey, waiting to be kidnapped or murdered by his two bandit brothers. So maybe Matt had other talents, sporting prowess maybe. Nope. First up, football. Matt used to play for the local village team. He was technically okay, to be fair, but such was his involvement in the team that our dad was once approached on the sideline by the manager to ask if Matt was okay, as he looked like he had hypothermia and was frozen to the spot, because he'd failed to move for about 5 minutes. What I can only assume in hindsight is that Matt was actually in Matland, GMT plus 5 minutes, and that kick-off hadn't taken place yet in his reality. So, football, no. How about swimming? Again, perfectly proficient, and to some extent, actually quite good. But what Matt didn't get the memo on is that swimming for humans generally takes place on the surface of the water. Instead, Matt could be found diving under the surface, thinking he was a dolphin or a whale. Football and swimming crossed off. What about something a bit less common? Hockey, maybe? Well, let me tell you, absolutely bloody not. I'll keep this one quick because it brings back some quite traumatic memories. But my only fleeting experience of Matt and hockey is the sight of the stick heading directly towards my head, resulting in a trip to A&E, a large bruise, and some blurry vision. After 12 years of putting up with the early days of Matt being just Matt, I'd had enough. I left home, and I left Ross to deal with him.
Note for Ross, do not mention the weather if it is raining. Now, being the younger brother, Matt and I met on the 31st of January in the year 2000. One of the greatest days in human history. The day I was born. Now, I don't really remember much about that day. I was going through quite a lot of the time. Matt and I shared an instant connection. We both immediately disliked each other. Matt and I used to fight a lot as kids, up until the day Andrew got fed up and left home for boarding school, leaving just us two. Good news for Matt, of course, as he went from being the least favourite child in the house to the second favourite. Moving up in the world, eh, Matt? Andrew moving out meant Matt had the opportunity to take on the role of big brother. And this is when I really felt we became closer friends. Or maybe, as the saying goes, keep your friends close and your enemies closer. But with Andy out of the house, this left Matt and I to bond over many things. For example, moving on. Later on, in school, Matt eventually switched on the upstairs lights and bribed his way to several good GCSEs and even a few A-levels. This meant Matt could also leave home. Hallelujah. And off he went to study a sports science degree at Coventry University, despite his sporting prowess and lack of any real interest in sport. In fact, the only allegiance to any sports team Matt has ever had is MK Dons Football Club, because he genuinely thought the MK stood for Matt King. Come to think of it, maybe that's why he moved there too. One of my earliest memories of Matt's sporting career was in playing for the village football team, as Andy has already mentioned. What, of course, Andy didn't mention is that one of our dad was the coach.
Best joke of the day.
At 13 years old, I didn't think it was possible to get subbed off for your 8-year-old brother by your own dad. But it happened, and he did, mainly because the rest of the team thought I was better. Still, regardless of that, I have to give it to Matt for finding such a stunning wife. In fact, let's do a toast while we're at it. I'm parched, and I imagine you are too. Please raise your glasses to a beautiful bride, Jenny. I think we can all agree how beautiful Jenny's dress is. And I personally really think it makes a nice change to the trousers she normally wears in the relationship. I'll let that one sit for a bit. You can't blame her though, and you have to admire Jenny really. It must be difficult having to make all of Matt's decisions for him. Dress him, feed him, and clean up his Pepsi cans every single day. So we thank you for that, Jenny, because who knows where Matt would be without you. Whilst we're on that, I can probably say where. Before Matt met Jenny, he was obsessed with video games, so much so that whatever video game he was playing at the time usually correlated to his career path. A Nordic-themed game called Skyrim is probably the source of his Viking obsession and mead hobby. But the one that truly stands out is was his obsession with violent PlayStation game Grand Theft Auto. For those who don't know what Grand Theft Auto is, I've got the internet definition here. The basic premise of the game is to steal cars, rob banks, beat people up, and get in police chases. Thankfully, Matt made the right decision to become a policeman, not a criminal. But before the police, Matt had many other career choices throughout his life. At a young age, whilst Andrew and I were capitalising on the garden's rich economy, Matt could be found picking up insects and making friends with them. Not long before the bandits would come to kill them and tell Matt to stop being weird. This is probably why Matt's first career choice was a marine biologist, underwater, in peace with nature. Matt's second career choice was a chef. I've not really got much to say on this one, but it usually helps if you can cook. Thirdly, at the age of 16 to 17, Matt wanted to join the Royal Marines. After joining the Air Cadet Force, he was dedicated to gaining the fitness qualifications so he could be out on the front line. However, thankfully, that's when he met Jenny, someone he could finally listen to, / get told what to do by. There's one time when Matt was out of Jenny's guidance, though. Let's talk about the stag do. A really well-organised weekend by Andrew, so thank you for that. And thank you to everyone who came, making the best out of not an ideal situation. Those that came were Matt, obviously, Andrew and I, Stephen and Richard, our dad, Jenny's dad, our uncles, Barry and William, George, Harry, Jack, James, Pierre, Mason, and finally Ryan. What was it Andy was saying about compensating again? Of course, We all had a great weekend, and it was a real pleasure to meet all of Jenny's friends. In a nutshell, the weekend consisted of not much good sleep, a bit of sunburn, lots of bruises, a massive fire, and a fair few near-death drowning experiences. Good job, it was a few weeks ago. On the Saturday night, we all went to the pub. This was quite a surreal experience, where we met a CeeLo Green lookalike. An attempt was made to convert us to Tottenham fans. Pierre ordered an egg salad, and Matt nearly pooed himself when a tray of 15 shots was brought out by the landlady. But what were the main things we learned from the stag do? 1. Don't do an assault course in the dark. 2. Matt's a massive lightweight. 3. When given the chance to wear a proper Viking beard, Matt couldn't hack wearing it. 4. Matt's a massive lightweight. 5. Matt was surprisingly good at his quiz and knows far too much about Jenny. And last but not least, 6, Matt's a massive lightweight. All things we knew already. All jokes aside, Matthew, I do admire you. It must be hard being a lightweight in a family of alcoholics.
But before a stag needs a bride. So how did they meet? Now, we've already heard a couple of stories from Matt, Jenny and Rob, but I want to tell the real story. And that is, we wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for me. Yes, I am responsible for this magnificent occasion. Actually, Auntie Ellen and Uncle Barry can take some responsibility, to be fair, so about 75% me, but any other claims are fake. So, why, I hear you ask? Well, the year was 2013, and it was our aunt and uncle's 21st birthday party, and Matt was put next to one of our friend's daughter, our beautiful bride, Jenny. Now, Matt did the initial work, somehow finding a way to woo today's bride. Jenny was smitten, it was clear, giggling, playing with her hair, all the classic signs, as Rob said. What's that? She only lives 15 minutes away? Perfect. A match made in heaven. Well, depart stage, charming Matt, and enter stage, just Matt. Now, just Matt decides that charming Matt's done enough and that magically, sometime in Mattland, remember GMT plus 5 minutes, Jenny's contact details will magically float their way across Cambridgeshire. Our survey says, enter the stage, me. You know she fancies you, she's playing with her hair. Have you asked for her number? Matt, no, should I? Yes, obviously. Matt, okay. 30 minutes later, we have a very similar conversation. Another 30 minutes later, similar again, slightly more expletives. I say, you've been talking all evening, just walk up and ask now. Matt says, okay. Anyway, you get the idea. Somewhere between Jenny asking Jenny for her number myself, Matt eventually got a number. The wrong number, I might add. But a number all the same. Anyway, Matt had just pulled off the biggest heist in dating history. Thanks to me, the big brother, fast forward 8 years to today, and Matt has himself a beautiful wife. Jenny is an exceptional catch. Matthew, you are lucky enough to leave today with a wife that is funny, caring and loving, intelligent, driven and hardworking. A wife who is incredibly kind. But also, Jenny, you're also lucky. You will leave today having gained a gorgeous dress and an incredible bouquet of flowers. In all seriousness, though, Matt and Jenny, Mr. and Mrs. King, as you now are, you really are a remarkable couple together. Since we first saw you both together, it's clear that whenever you are together, how much you love each other, and also when you aren't together, how obvious it is that you're missing each other. Jenny, you religiously defend Matt from our jokes, and even humour his Viking obsession. I think you organise him, keep him in the real world, and generally bring the best out of him. You are absolutely perfect for him, and we felt like you're our sister and one of the family for a long time now. We're also incredibly happy that today could go ahead, even if not quite as much as originally planned. Obviously, getting to today hasn't happened by magic, and it's been a constant challenge due to changing rules and everything else that has taken place. I have an absolute ton of respect for you both keeping calm and bringing it together so that we can all celebrate your marriage 12 months late, but here together. So how about it, people? Let's make a bit of noise for that. Come on. Come on. Come on. We're rocking. You can do better than that. It's coming home. It's coming home. Oh, sorry. Wrong event. Sorry. Okay, calm it at the back. You're having too much fun. However, Jenny, there is one thing I do need to add. I'd get used to feeling like you have the last couple of weeks. Lateness, uncertainty, and having an absolute mad frenzy of last-minute planning without any organisation whatsoever are the staple hallmarks of a King family event. So welcome aboard the Crazy Bus and call the wedding planning a crash course in how to be a king. Genuinely, though, I am truly, truly thrilled for you. I wish you both the best of luck in the future and hope you have a truly wonderful honeymoon in Wales. Sorry, Matt's just told me they're not going to Wales. I was just a bit confused because Matt was saying on the stag about how he's going to Bangor for 2 weeks.
Wow.
No? Okay.
Don't worry about that, Nana. Nana's laughing, so it's all right.
Anyway, moving swiftly on. I've reached the point where allegedly the best men should offer some advice and philosophise about love and marriage. Now, obviously, the only advice Ross can give about love is how to sleaze on the dance floor in Oxford. So in my role as Big Brother, I'm going to carry on. Now, I wanted to do something original, something rather than a standard bit of advice you can find on the internet. So I started off writing about English literature. I recalled some iconic authors, something about how women are meant to be loved, not understood, how all isn't fair in love and war. Anyway, I actually nearly fell asleep when I read it back. So I decided it had to be something that I was passionate about. And anyone that doesn't know me, it was an easy decision because I love planes. It's an obvious choice. I came up with a ton of examples and analogies, even a link with the aviation error management system. Solid if you can't immediately see the connection, by the way. Anyway, if you can't see the connection between love, marriage and planes, how about this? Now, the link I've gone for is aircraft aerodynamics. So to start, a quick lesson. Aircraft fly on a fundamental level by managing the equilibrium between the 4 aerodynamic forces: lift versus weight and thrust versus drag. In the simplest possible terms, you require balance. If you don't have enough thrust, you can't counteract the drag, you don't create a lift over the wing, and your plane falls out of the sky. Essentially, that's exactly like love. Consider that on your love plane, there will always be something trying to pull you back. Work, money, maybe being investigated by anti-corruption. Ben Covers. Whatever it is. Anyway, to keep your plane flying high above the clouds and your marriage doing exactly the same, you must always balance each other's love. Reach a compromise where necessary. Work a bit harder if something is slacking. Always maintain your own equilibrium. Don't let any individual component of the equilibrium take too much priority over the other, and you will maximise your lift together and ultimately your love for one another. Love, marriage, planes, clearly related. C. So here's the advice. Whenever in your marriage you feel like something is taking priority above all else, think aerodynamics, think balance.
Right, we are nearly there. The fabled bar is nearly opened, and whilst I mention it, just to save you some time, your answer to the question, would you like a drink, is yes.
We're hoping we've done Happy Couple justice, and you're leaving with a view that Matt isn't quite as bad as you first thought. Yes, he can be quirky. Yes, he does things that can only be explained by Matt being just Matt. But at the end of the day, he is our brother. The unexplainable, nobody quite knows what Mer is, brother. The ugly to our good and bad brother. The slow lane Wenger bus spaghetti towel 5 minutes late to the conversation brother. The sporting anomaly brother. The Viking obsessed Royal Marines wannabe brother. Yet despite all that, you are somehow lucky enough to have found yourself an amazing wife who clearly loves you with all her heart, and one who you are clearly able to make very happy too. So don't change anything. You are who you are. You do what you do. The most important type of brother that you are is our brother. We respect you, we're proud of you and of what you've become, and you will always be there. We will always be there for you. Just don't cock it up with Jenny this late on. So before we toast, there's just one final thing we'd like to do. Jenny, please place your hand on the table. Matt, please place your hand above hers. On it. Okay. Now, just Matt. Look at each other as we look at you. Matt, remember this moment. This is the first and last time you will ever have the upper hand on your wife.
So everyone, can you please raise your glasses high and join us in a toast?
To being at last together to celebrate.
To always being yourselves.
To flying your plane high above the clouds. We wish you all the happiness in the world, Matthew and Jennifer.
Matt and Jenna.
Miffy and Jiffy. The new Mr. and Mrs. King.